All right, so we're going deep today
Yeah, deep dive.
into
Let's
startup journeys.
into your source material.
Yeah, exactly. And you've chosen some really interesting stuff here. I'm excited about this one.
Absolutely.
We're going beyond those glossy success stories.
Right.
We always hear about,
Like the highlight reel.
yeah,
Yeah.
and really kind of getting into the real, unfiltered experience
Yeah,
of building a business.
absolutely. The nitty gritty.
Yeah, no sugarcoating here.
No sugarcoating. We want the raw and the real.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're looking at a blog post from the founder of I Love Coding
Yes.
and a Medium article by Liaxing, who has started multiple companies.
Yeah, multiple businesses under his belt.
So he's got some good experience.
He's been around the block a few
Yes.
times.
And both of these offer some refreshingly honest perspectives, I think.
Yes, very
And
honestly.
what it actually takes
Yeah.
to launch and grow a business.
Hmm.
So that's what really caught my eye was the honesty here.
Transparency. Yeah.
So let's start with the I Love Coding blog.
Okay.
What struck me right away was the author's commitment to just raw storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
They're not shying away from the frustrations, from the self-doubt, all those vicious cycles
Yeah.
that entrepreneurs often kind of keep quiet about.
Right. They kind of keep it to themselves. It's almost like a badge of honor to suffer in silence.
Right. It's like,
Ah.
you're not supposed to talk about that.
Yeah, you're not supposed to air your dirty laundry,
Right.
so to speak.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of value in being open and honest about those struggles because it makes it more relatable for other people who might be going through the same thing.
Absolutely.
It makes them feel less alone.
Yeah. And it was a deliberate choice
Yeah.
by this author. They even mentioned their inspiration being, podcasters like Andrew Warner and Pat Flynn.
Yes.
Who are known for that authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that they're really trying to kind of cut through the noise
Yeah.
and show what that journey is truly like.
Absolutely. No BS.
Yeah.
Just the straight truth.
And I think that's so valuable for anyone who's thinking about starting a business,
Mm-hmm.
right? To see that it's not always smooth sailing,
Yeah.
that everyone faces challenges.
Uh-huh.
This blog almost feels like a reality check in a way,
Yeah.
but also a source of inspiration because they're so open about their goals and their struggles.
Right.
And they're aiming to reach 1,000 paying customers,
Okay.
and they're sharing their progress from the very start.
Mm-hmm.
They're starting at 88 paying customers and $600 a month in revenue.
That's a pretty good start, though.
It is a good start, but they've got a long way to go.
Yeah, 1,000 is a significant milestone for sure.
And that's what I find so intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
Why that specific number?
Mm-hmm.
Why 1,000?
Why not 500 or 10,000? Why
Exactly.
1,000? Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's about finding a goal that's challenging
Okay.
but still attainable. Something that requires them to step up their game but doesn't feel completely out of reach.
Okay.
That
makes sense.
Because if you set a goal that's too easy,
Right.
you might not push yourself hard enough. But if it's too ambitious, it can be discouraging.
Uh-huh.
So I think 1,000 is a sweet spot for them at this stage.
I like that. And they even outline some of the topics they're going to be covering, like, growth hacks,
Mm-hmm.
tools they're using, how
Okay.
they got their early customers,
Mhm.
building relationships and authority,
Very important.
all of the things that go into building a successful business.
The nuts and bolts.
Yeah. And it's like we get a peek behind the curtain
Yeah.
to see these tactics in action,
Mm-hmm.
which is what makes it so compelling.
Absolutely.
It's not just theory.
It's real world experience.
Yeah.
Rubber meets the road kind of stuff. Yeah.
Someone in the trenches sharing, their real-time experiences
Mm-hmm.
and strategies.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit
Okay.
and dive into Liaxing's Medium article,
Right.
which takes us a little bit deeper into the scaling phase,
Mm-hmm.
particularly the journey from 10 to 100 customers.
Okay.
And this is where things get really interesting for me, because he argues that scaling from 10 to 100 customers is the true test of a startup. He even goes so far as to say it's more challenging
True.
than getting those first few customers.
Yeah, I can see why he would say that because those first 10 customers are often people, personally,
Right.
friends, family, early adopters who are willing to take a chance on you.
Right.
But once you get beyond that initial circle, you have to start appealing to a wider audience.
Yeah,
People who don't know you from Adam.
exactly.
And that's a whole different ballgame.
And his own journey really kind of adds a lot of weight to that argument.
Mm-hmm.
He started his first company in college,
Wow.
faced immense pressure,
Mm-hmm.
and even had to overcome language barriers,
Really?
to achieve some initial success.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Overcoming language barriers on top of everything else.
But then his startup, eventually faced some setbacks,
No.
had to shut down,
Oh, wow.
and led to significant financial losses for him.
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah. So, quite a roller coaster ride.
Absolutely.
But it really underscores that point that success is rarely linear,
Right.
especially in the startup world.
Yeah, it's full of twists and turns,
Yeah.
unexpected roadblocks.
And through these experiences, he's pinpointed 5 key challenges
Okay.
that startups face
Mm-hmm.
when scaling from 10 to 100 customers.
All right, so these are the hurdles that often trip companies up.
Yeah, exactly. The things that can really make or break a company as they're trying to grow.
Mm-hmm.
So let's unpack those a little bit.
Yeah, let's dive in.
The first one he highlights is building a leadership team.
Okay.
And I'm curious to hear more about his perspective on this.
Well, he emphasizes that it's not just about finding people with the right skills on paper.
Okay.
It's also about finding individuals who truly align with the company's vision and can handle the pressure of rapid growth.
Okay.
Because when you're scaling
Yeah.
quickly, things can get really chaotic.
Right.
And you need people who can stay calm under pressure,
Yeah.
make sound decisions, and keep the team moving forward.
And he actually shares an anecdote about hiring people who looked great on their resumes,
Uh-huh.
but ended up being a poor cultural fit for the company.
Oh, that's a classic mistake.
Right.
It's easy to get dazzled by someone's credentials, but if they don't mesh well with the company culture, it can create all sorts of problems.
You could have the most talented people in the world,
Exactly.
but if they're not, rowing in the same direction or don't mesh well, it could be a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, it's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
Yeah. So how do you avoid those mismatches?
Well, he doesn't give specific hiring tips in this article,
Okay.
but I think the takeaway is to really take your time with the hiring process
Okay.
and not rush into decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just focus on skills and experience, but also try to assess cultural fit.
Mm-hmm.
Do they share the same values? Do they
Right.
have a similar work ethic?
Do they communicate well?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about finding people who will not only thrive in your company culture, but also contribute to it.
Yeah, it's about building a team that's greater than the sum of its parts.
Right.
And I bet that ties into the next challenge on his list.
You're thinking about establishing processes, right?
Yeah, exactly. As a company grows, those informal ways of working,
Mm-hmm.
that might have been fine in the early days. Just don't cut it anymore.
Right.
You need structure systems for everything,
Absolutely.
from customer support to, onboarding new team members. And I imagine this could be a tricky transition for a lot of founders.
Oh, absolutely. Especially for those who are used to doing everything themselves.
Right.
In the beginning, you're wearing all the hats.
Right.
You're the CEO, the marketer, the customer service rep.
The janitor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're doing it all.
But as the company grows, you need to formalize those processes.
Right. You need to start delegating,
Yeah.
putting systems in place.
So what does he recommend for making that shift?
Well, he gives a really relatable example of how customer support requests started piling up as his company grew
Oh, no.
because they didn't have a structured process in place.
Right.
It's a classic example of how scaling can expose weaknesses in your operations.
Yeah. You can kind of get away with being a little bit disorganized in the early days.
Yeah, you can fly by the seat of your pants.
Right. But once you start growing, you need to have those systems in place.
Exactly. Otherwise, you're constantly playing catch up,
Yeah,
which can be incredibly stressful and inefficient.
absolutely. And it can really damage your reputation.
Oh, yeah. If customers are waiting weeks for a response,
Right.
they're not going to be happy.
Or if new team members aren't getting the support they need,
Right.
they're going to feel lost and confused.
Exactly.
And it can really hurt morale.
Yeah, so it's crucial to anticipate those growing pains
Right.
and put systems in place that can scale with the company.
Mm-hmm.
Be proactive rather than reactive.
It's like you're building the infrastructure
Yes,
for your business to grow.
exactly.
And that brings us to his third challenge, embracing technology.
Technology.
This is a big one, right?
It is a big one, and it's constantly evolving.
It seems like there's a new tool or platform popping up every day,
every day.
promising to revolutionize how businesses operate.
Yeah, and some of them do live up to the hype,
Right.
but a lot of them don't.
And so it's, you have to be careful about.
It's a minefield out there. You
Yeah.
got to be careful what you choose.
Definitely. So how does he approach this? You know, he acknowledges that technology is essential,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not a magic bullet.
Right.
Choosing the right tech,
Right.
implementing it effectively,
Yeah.
getting your team on board can be a real headache.
It can be, and it can be expensive too.
Right.
You can spend a lot of money on software that you end up not using.
And I'm sure he's got some war stories to share about this.
Oh, he does. He does.
What's an example?
Well, he talks about implementing a CRM system in his company,
Okay.
which stands for Customer Relationship Management.
Nah.
Basically, it's a system for tracking all your interactions with customers.
Okay.
And the intention was to make things more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
But the team resisted the change,
Oh, no.
and it took a lot of effort to make it work.
So sometimes, it's not just about the technology itself.
Right.
It's about the people
It's about the people.
and the change management that goes along with it,
Absolutely. You got to bring your team along,
Yeah.
get their buy-in.
and provide the support they need
Mm-hmm.
to adopt that new technology.
Training, support, encouragement, all of that.
Yeah, it's an investment,
Absolutely.
not just a purchase.
Not just a one-time cost.
Right.
It's an ongoing process.
And even with careful planning,
Mm-hmm.
you're likely to encounter some bumps along the way.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So, that flexibility and that willingness to iterate are key.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so speaking of iteration,
Yes.
let's move on to this fourth challenge, building a brand.
Okay.
How does he approach this aspect of scaling?
Well, he argues that as a company grows, its brand needs to evolve beyond the founder's personal story.
Okay,
In the early days,
right.
your brand might be very closely tied to you and your personal journey.
Uh-huh.
But as you grow, you need to create a brand that can stand on its own 2 feet.
That makes sense.
It needs to resonate with a wider audience
Right.
and appeal to a broader market.
So what kind of evolution did he go through with his own companies?
Well, he talks about having to rebrand to better align with customer needs and market positioning.
Okay.
So it wasn't just about a new logo or tagline.
Right.
It was about fundamentally shifting how the company presented itself to the world.
That sounds like a pretty significant undertaking.
It can be, but he emphasizes that building a brand is an ongoing process,
Right.
and it needs to adapt as the business grows and the market changes.
So it's not a one and done thing.
No, it's a constant evolution.
Yeah.
You have to keep refining your message,
Okay.
your visuals, your tone of voice.
To stay relevant and resonate with your target audience.
Exactly.
Okay, so the final challenge he discusses is driving operational efficiency.
Right.
And what does he mean by that?
Well, he's talking about the shift in focus towards profitability as a company grows.
Okay.
In the early days, you might be okay with burning through cash
Right.
to acquire customers and grow quickly.
But eventually,
You'd eventually...
you need to start making money.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
need to become sustainable.
And this is where things can get really tricky,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
right? Because you're growing,
Yeah.
you're hiring.
We're investing in new technology.
All of that costs money.
Yeah, it's a balancing act.
So how do you balance that growth with the need for efficiency and profitability?
Well, he shares a cautionary tale about how his operational costs spiraled out of control at one point.
Oh.
He had to take drastic steps to regain control
Uh,
and steer the company back towards financial sustainability.
it's a good reminder that growth isn't always good,
Right.
especially if it's not sustainable.
Exactly. You can't just grow for growth's sake.
You need to have a solid financial foundation,
You need a strong core.
yeah, to support that growth.
Otherwise, the whole thing can collapse.
So what kind of advice does he offer for avoiding that pitfall?
Well, he emphasizes the importance of implementing systems and processes that promote efficiency.
Okay.
So things like streamlining your workflow,
Mm-hmm.
automating tasks,
Uh-huh.
using data to track your key metrics.
So it's about working smarter, not just harder.
Exactly.
And I bet that also involves making some tough decisions
Oh, yeah, for sure.
about where to invest your resources,
Absolutely.
because you can't do everything at once.
Especially when you're operating with limited resources.
And that can be a really challenging skill for entrepreneurs to master because there's so many ideas you want to pursue them all.
Right. It's easy to get distracted by shiny objects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess it comes down to being strategic and making those tough choices.
Yeah, you have to prioritize.
And this kind of ties into another key point. He makes money doesn't solve everything.
Ah, the myth of the magic money tree.
You'd think having more money would make things easier,
You would think so, wouldn't you?
but that's not always the case.
Not necessarily. In fact, it can create new problems.
Oh, really?
Yeah, increased funding often comes with higher expectations,
Okay.
greater pressure from investors,